Hello, everyone. A very good morning. You're joining us for another episode of Relatable, Sinar Daily's talk show that engages on women empowerment and relatable issues concerning women in Malaysia and around the globe. My name is Shahira,
And I'm Tasnim Lokman.
and we will be your co-hosts
Yes.
for today. If you notice, firstly before anything else, we are starting fresh this month with a brand new set, and we're so excited about it. And to make this even more special, we have a very special guest with us today, who has come all the way from the United States.
Where exactly is that?
I am now on Whidbey Island, which is the Pacific Northwest, about 2 hours away from Seattle.
Wow.
Okay. So this is Izzy Chan. Is that correct? Am I saying
That's
that
correct,
pronounced?
Izzy
All right,
Chan.
So Izzy Chan, she is a filmmaker who produced an award-winning documentary titled "The Big Flip: Stories from the Modern Home Front," which follows stories of four American families.
That's right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So they share their journey, their trials and triumphs of a family dynamic of where the mom is the breadwinner and the dad is a stay-at-home parent, right?
That's
Okay.
correct. You got it.
So naturally, this brings us to our topic for today, which is called "When the Role Flips."
So long gone are the days when it was the men who goes to work and the women stays home. So now you can see it's obvious that the trend is changing. Women are the ones who are making more. They are basically the breadwinners, while the men some may be working, but some are full-time home dads, right?
That's
Like,
right.
raising their children. And when the shift in gender stereotypes and norms at home for work, at home, not only at home but also at the workplace, things change for the couple and the family institution. So we're going to talk about the power dynamics there and how the society can accept, or would you say accept?
Or embrace
Embrace the
Or
situ-
adapt. Sometimes they have to adapt
this
to.
new sort of norm that we're getting to,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So we'll be discussing about the film, the documentary, and the challenges and the internal conflicts that these families have shared, and also societal expectations when it comes to a flip in gender roles. Because for so long.
We've been ingrained with
Yeah,
this idea,
we've
right?
ingrained with the men are the breadwinner, the moms are the homemakers, right?
Yes.
And I
So-
think it goes beyond countries and racial lines. It's basically just the norm, right?
Or it's just, I think it's something that has been increasing in terms of the numbers, that there are more and more women
Yes.
who are working. And then because so one of the trends in America is there are more women now than men going to university.
Yeah,
And
that's-
so
It's
if you
the same
grad,
here.
oh, it's
exactly
the
the same.
So
here.
it's because of that trend, because you tend to get paid better if you have a university degree.
Correct.
So that's why more and more women are starting to out earn their spouse.
I
yeah.
see, I
Okay.
see.
So let's go to the
Okay.
first.
Yeah. So maybe Izzy, you can share a little bit more about the documentary that you filmed with with the
Yeah,
one that's watching.
Should I tell you about what prompted me to
Yeah,
make it?
definitely. I wanna know that
So
story.
I always say I made this documentary to save my marriage. So
okay.
what happened was we entered into a flip situation
Okay.
where I was the main breadwinner. My husband didn't have a job, and we didn't enter into it knowingly. It was kind of intended. It was during the sort of the big economic downturn. He had quit his job thinking he was going to start a company, and the downturn happened. And of course, it was not a good time to start his business. And so I really focused on building my consultancy, and that really took off.
Right.
It took off, but because we didn't intend it that way, we were both just feeling awkward. I think I felt awkward and uncomfortable being so successful while his business dreams were not.
Right.
And I think because he never intended to be the stay-at-home spouse, he wasn't thinking, oh, how could I make life better at home and take maybe, better care of the house so that Izzy could work better. So I was resentful. I felt resentful, and it was a little bit of a mix. I was at the same time resentful, but at the same time, I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I couldn't celebrate my business
Right.
wins.
Yes, exactly.
And he was also feeling, I think, more and more depressed without saying it. And our just marriage just started falling apart. We were not talking. We were tense. I was upset why the house was always,
Yeah.
Not in order.
It's like
dirty.
you have to work, you have to bring home the money,
Yes.
but you
Yeah.
also have to clean and
I come
cook.
home, what is
Shoulder
there
the
a mess?
burden of the
Yeah.
household chores. Yep.
And he's
correct.
asking, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
I want to ask you what's for dinner.
You're the one who's at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So then I started doing research and realized there were actually more women like me, but we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's a hidden secret. And I also learned that most marriages at that time, if a woman earns more than the man, the divorce was a lot higher. So I realized what I was feeling was normal, but at the same time, I didn't want it to be normal. I don't want to have a divorce. So I made the documentary to see how other women in the same situations, other men and women, were dealing with it, so we could learn from each other.
I see.
Yeah.
how did your husband feel when you
This
planned out and told him that you were doing
documentary.
this?
It was at first it was weird, especially when we're amongst friends, and it's like, oh, you're working on a documentary. What is it about? At first it was weird, and then I think over time he embraced it, and I think part of why he embraced it. So I thought I was making the documentary to show how he was wrong.
Okay.
Like, you need to do better at home, taking care. Maybe I'll let the documentary show you. Well, I also learned through the documentary about other things I was doing wrong.
Okay.
And how I was not being. I was still controlling a lot of the things at home. So, of course, it's hard for him to embrace it. And so I learned a lot of things that were about how both of us could do better to make the flip better.
Like letting go, right?
Letting go is one of the big things. He might not take care of the house and cook the same way I do, but I should embrace it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The same way he embraces you, being the breadwinner. I guess.
Yes, and then he doesn't tell me how to do my job.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So, we watched. There were 4 families in this
right.
documentary, and I think a lot of them discussed like how difficult it was.
How to
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
also.
Yeah. But I think I just want to know your opinion on this. Like, why we're in 2022, right? So why is it so hard for society to accept a female breadwinner to the point where it earns a documentary? You know?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I really hope, like in 20 years or hopefully 10 years, nobody would even watch the documentary because it makes no sense that it's a norm. Why do we even need to watch something? I think right now it's tough because change is always hard. When you change how things always were, part of the reason is people don't want to feel what they've always done is wrong. And sometimes embracing something new shouldn't mean that something that used to be is one thing is right or wrong. But I think people resist because they're afraid that it means what we have always done is wrong. And I think and one thing that's also hard is even for those of us who are breadwinners now, we grew up in a time where women were at home taking care, so there's guilt, right? So some of it is internal, and some of it is external, so it's a mix of things. I'm hoping by the next generation, those feelings hopefully would have evened out and people won't even bat an eye when they see a breadwinner mom.
It's interesting you talk about that because I come from a big flip family. Like my mom is literally the breadwinner, while my dad is not a stay-home dad per se. He does have his own businesses and he does a lot of NGO works. But he did like basically raise this while my mom was working, and she did travel a lot for work. So it's just that when you're talking about this, and you hope it changes generation mentality, like I actually I was making more when I started out in our marriage, and I still wanted him to pay for
Yeah.
the major, because I don't know about you guys, but in Malaysia mostly the man needs to provide shelter, food, and clothing lah, basically. I guess in our religion, if that's right.
It's reflected in our
Ah, yes, that's
So,
right.
But I could definitely afford more than what he was making, but I still needed. I don't know if it was him or it was me, but I have no issues with women being the breadwinners, but I still felt the need, like, he had to.
same.
So,
Yeah.
Did you have a child at that point?
No, we did
So
not.
I think that makes a big difference, right? We're now in a flip again. So we flip and flop.
Yeah.
So when the first time it happened, we didn't have a child.
Yeah.
And so much of the resentment is because, well, how are you contributing to the family
Right.
unit? Whereas now that there's a
Actually, when
child.
there's a child now, I don't mind.
Yeah,
at all.
because he
No
is
issues.
actively busy. And
Yeah.
I think the difficulty is whether it's money or other things, how do both men and women or both couples contribute to a family? It doesn't have to be money. And I think part of the resentment you might have felt, because at least I think that's why I felt that way,
Okay.
is like, I need to feel like you're contributing, that I'm not doing all the work. And when there are no kids, perhaps it's a little harder.
But for the record, he's making way more than me now.
Ah.
But just to say that, like, I did, even though I came from an absolute breadwinner, female breadwinning
Yeah.
family, I just felt the need to have that sense of, husband,
Yeah.
wife roles kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
Yeah.
so maybe I think you make a good point. There's generational difference. If society views and norms
Yeah.
are still not changed, it's still hard,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So we just need more movies like The
Yeah,
Big Flip, or
yes.
more, even your regular fiction TV shows. If there are just more normally families where the dad is at home or the mom is making money, and it
Representative,
becomes
right?
normalized,
Yeah.
then I think it becomes easier.
I think the biggest part when you talk about contribution,
Yes.
it's money. Money, what you value. Do you value the time or do you value the money?
Yeah.
So that's the tricky part. That's what makes this sort of income disparity a bit
Yeah.
uncomfortable,
Be
perhaps.
making it the main reasons for divorce, right? You were saying.
I mean,
so-
like it or not, money is a huge
Yes.
contributing factor, right? Because there's this perception that when you have more money, you are in more power to make the decision
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, you make a very good point. So one of the things that I learned that I realized I had to do better is, so there's a Pew study research that showed that when men are breadwinners, like maybe 1/3 of them think that I am the one who should be in charge of financial. 1/3 of them will think that we should do it equally. And for whatever reason, 1/3 of men who are breadwinners think his wife should make all the financial decisions. So it's evenly, but for families where the women are the breadwinner, half of the women feel like they need to make all the decisions. And that's an issue because I think maybe because we come from a background that women don't have a lot of financial control.
Yeah.
So I think we control the money more. And the husbands often feel like it's her money, not our money.
Yeah,
Right.
Whereas when it's the man making the money, I think
Yes.
women knows it's our money.
Yes.
And I realized I had to do better to always not just talk about my business and my wins, but our wins.
Yeah.
And always talk about our money and not like my money. And even my business, I always say this is actually a family business, even though I'm the one making the films and doing the
Yeah.
consulting. That when I have the wins, I always say it's our win.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, your
definitely.
success is my success. That's
Yeah.
that kind of thing, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I think when we watched the documentary, a lot of the husbands were talking about their feeling of smallness.
Yeah.
You know, the maybe not worthy enough because you don't bring home the good.
They do feel they talk about the fear of saying out loud their
Yeah.
husbands,
That admitting that they
Yes.
are actually stay-at-home dads.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, why do you think so? And was it like a common
Common
sort of
theme.
thing. Yeah,
w-
common
among
theme
all
among
among
all
all
the.
of- but when I looked at it, like Fred did not feel so much that way compared to the others.
Yeah,
For me,
Freddie
yeah.
it
was a snowboarder.
Yeah,
He's like,
exactly.
cool, I have a sugar mama now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That was him joking,
Yeah.
of course. He was okay with
Okay.
it. I think part of it was, I think there's some slight shift, but it's because we're in a society that values, there are two things. First is gender. We do think of men who should play a role of providing. So when they don't, they know that society might look at them a little differently. But even regardless of gender, I think we're a society that, at least in America, values someone who's quote unquote powerful in business and with money.
Yeah.
And what I have heard that even stay at home moms often feel like they go to a party, the moment they say they're a stay at home mom,
Oh my God.
the conversation ends.
Yeah.
Like they're dismissed, like they're.
I can totally relate.
Ah.
relate to it. Like
So,
absolutely.
We're in a society that I think we value earning so much more that we only pay lip service to valuing
Yes.
people who care for kids. And I always tell people it's like what you hear in the film. My husband has the harder job, much harder
Yes.
job, and
Exactly.
so I think that's part of the issue why they don't. We're in a society that doesn't recognize the importance of what they do in that.
Yeah, actually, I was during COVID. I was a stay-at-home mom, and
Same here.
yeah, we were both stay-at-home moms during
Yeah.
COVID because we were in journalism. We were journalists, and then COVID happened, and we were like on a break before we joined here.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get ourselves to say that we were housewives or stay-at-home moms, but we were doing so much. It was
So much
Yeah.
more.
like because of the housewife job, it got me like I need to find a job. Like I can't be a housewife because it's really hard.
It's hard.
It's so
hard
hard.
work.
It's really
Yeah,
hard.
it's really
Yeah.
hard.
So that part, I think, a big part of it is not even related to gender. I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
that we're in societies that if you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, you do feel like you're less relevant, and people might.
But they
not.
are the most important
They
person.
are. They
But I
are.
salute all women, all men who are stay at home. You are amazing.
I call my husband the chief happiness officer of our
Oh my
family.
gosh, that's
Yeah.
so good.
Here, people usually call just the home minister.
Ah, that's a good one too. I'll ask him. Do you want a promotion to home minister now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like because of this, like I noticed Ross, he always keeps saying that she believes in me. She wants. I mean, the thing is, Ross is an actor, and it's a very difficult job to succeed in because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
gotta be something to make a difference.
Yeah.
So do you think like what was the angle or approach when it comes to the men who had dreams and
Yes.
like how was it like in general? And I mean in the US a lot of people want to be famous in Hollywood, so the partner supports them through the journey.
Yes.
And I noticed like the difference with Fred, he was already successful, right? And then he retired because of age, right? So what's the take there?
I think the way I see it is now his acting stuff doesn't take away from his responsibilities of being a good father, and he still takes care of his sons. They have two now, and they still take care, and he still takes care of the home. So I think that's okay because whether it's a man or a woman who's taking main responsibility is the home. Everyone, even at work, right? We need to define our job in a way that also fulfills us.
Yeah.
So if he needs to find an outlet that's acting, or for Chip, it was an outlet that's creating all these community events.
Yeah.
For my husband, he actually is very active in the school board and he volunteers for their IT stuff because he comes from tech. I think as long as it doesn't interfere and I don't feel like now all of a sudden I'm working a job and have to take care of the kids in the home, it is important to allow room on the job description of the homemaker to include parts that are their passion. And then I think we need to be supportive of that too so they have fulfillment.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's actually a good suggestion. Like
yeah.
that's good. That's a good suggestion and advice. To feel the job description in their daily life.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I'm loving this. I'm loving this conversation. We're gonna take a short break. We're gonna discuss when we come back. We're gonna discuss more on marital impacts, how a woman's success is downplayed, maybe, and we'll get more into that soon. Stay tuned.
So there's no question about MOU 2.0 because I think the MOU will not be ended on 31st of July. A lot of people thought that MOU is ending on 31st of July. That is not happening because MOU understanding is that the government will not dissolve parliament before 31st of July. So there are still items under the MOU which have not been delivered by the government, and we are still holding the government to accountable.
Hello everyone, my name is Anas, and today's episode of Dazzle, we are here at Hype Vault, one of the best places to go if you're looking for the rarest street item in the market. So let's check them out.
Hi, I'm Arpit Goyal, and I'm the co-founder of Hype Vault. Hype Vault is a leading streetwear and luxury brand based in Malaysia, and we pioneer ourselves in selling 100% authentic products in Malaysia.
I'm Raja Jasrina Arshad. I'm the founder and CEO of Purely Bee. We're a leading health and wellness lifestyle brand and community platform in Malaysia and Southeast Asia. Our mission is to make it easy, affordable, and sustainable for everyone to live healthier lifestyles and improve their health through lifestyle change.
UMNO president is not in favor of a longer period. They wanted a snap election. They wanted a parliament to be dissolved as soon as possible. As far as we are concerned, we are not in a hurry. We think that the rakyat comes first.
We carry a variety of highly coveted brands such as Air Jordans. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, Nike Dunks, Nike SBs, Yeezys, and more. We've got the Air Jordan 1 UNC. These are super rare Travis Scott Air Jordan 1s, which are the first ever collab between Nike and Travis Scott.
Our bestseller product that we launched in the market with when we started doing products is Pegaga by Purely Bee. So Pegaga, as a lot of people know, is a type of ulam, but they don't realize how powerful it is. It's actually one of nature's most powerful healing herbs for brain, skin, digestion, immunity. And so Pegaga by Purely Bee is actually an ancient herbal remedy, not just Pegaga, but turmeric leaf, papaya leaf, habatusara, green apples, and dates. So it's actually very refreshing and delicious. It's not bitter. And all you have to do is take a scoop, mix it into a glass of water, and drink it every morning, every night.
Hi, and you're back with us. We're going to continue this conversation on when the role flips, which is essentially about when women become the breadwinner for the families. So, Izzy, I think one of the things that that sort of like stood out for me in the documentary was I think Bonnie and Chip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were the ones. She was the one commuting from
Yeah.
Portland and San Francisco, right?
That's
So
right.
like, she had a baby, and they had 3 older kids. So she left when the baby was like 4 months. Right,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It must be so difficult, you
It
know. I mean, the
was.
guilt that you bring in and all that. But aside from that, like with her not physically being there every day for like dinner time, snack time, or whatever. Do you think that women who are breadwinners, like away from home a lot, does it slowly shift them away from their role as a mother and a wife?
It's funny. Bonnie and Chip and I are actually good friends,
Oh,
very
okay.
good friends, and we talk about it because I travel a lot too. And we actually have this theory, not confirmed by research yet, that it might actually be better than if the husband is the one traveling.
Okay.
Because now, my child is adopted, so I can't buy into the maternal instinct thing, because even though I didn't give birth to her, I'm close to her. But because of the social expectations and kids looking up to their mom because of that, she feels that in a way it's better that way because she is pushing to maintain that bond with her kid.
Right.
That I think a 50s, in the 1950s when men were working long hours, they
didn't have the need to
they didn't feel the need
yeah.
to. So then the kids end up, we call it, Chip, Bonnie, and I call it the totality of love. That when the mom is the one working, we like to argue maybe the totality of love is really strong because the mom feels such a need when she's home to spend every moment. I don't know if it's fair because I think in today's world, working dads also want to be very engaged, so that's changing.
Yep.
But compared to the older generation of the stay-at-home mom and the working dad who comes home, have a glass of whiskey, pat their heads and be done, I think compared to that, there's a movement towards both the working parents and the trying to be very engaged.
Yeah, that's very. And actually, I googled how far is Portland to San Francisco. San Fran to Portland.
far is it?
It's about it's almost a 2-hour flight.
Yes.
And, basically 10-hour drive. That's insane, right?
It shows she flies often.
Yeah.
yeah.
But like during
Tiring.
COVID, I cannot imagine during COVID, like.
The whole family moved to San Francisco eventually.
All right, thank God.
And I'm like, okay, that's good.
Thank
That's
God.
good.
Because when I started out this job, my kids were with my husband in another state, like 2 hours away, and I was going back and forth, and it was really. It takes like a toll
It's like
on
a
you.
2-hour drive, right?
Yeah, like
It was hard for them too.
yeah, and when you're not there for dinner, you're not there to like just get them ready for school. It feels horrible, right?
Yeah.
So but there's also that need, as a female, as a woman, you want to be at the forefront. You want to be having your career, your own name, and but there is that feeling of you feel guilty. You don't want to over succeed your husband's,
In a way.
yeah, like you know what I mean. So like,
yes.
do you think was it pertinent in your documentaries or during the sessions you were filming the shoot? Was there a sense of because I noticed Robin also felt some sense of that way, that guilt of success.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's tough in several things. We don't like to talk about money in society.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example. Whenever I do this screening in, let's say, a corporate setting like a Google or a Facebook, and it's for the senior women because they really could relate to the issues, I'll ask, how many of you here are breadwinner wives? And I see almost the whole room hands up, and they look at each other. They didn't know. Oh, I didn't realize you were a breadwinner. Because nobody talks about these things, right? And they don't talk about how I make more or my husband doesn't make as much. So I think it's a mix of just we don't talk about money, and we do feel a little in social settings, even if our husband is very fine with it. In social settings, we don't want them to feel embarrassed because society still expects them to be making. So it's, I guess, our way of trying to protect them. But then it also then feels weird because you can't celebrate and be proud of your own success. So it's a complicated
Unless
thing.
he celebrates for you.
Yes,
He
we've
shows
actually
it.
gone to a place where my husband is very proud of what I do and very proud of what he does. So he totally tells me, he jokes, I'm retired, I'm the one who takes care and in charge of the home, and she's the one who works.
So but Robin does talk about her insecurities and how she feels like she's a breadwinner and how Fred feels. So do you think like women at the back of the minds, regardless how woke we are, I mean, when you are probably in a bubble where you all have the same mindset and you have the same idea on how breadwinners work and things like that, but at the back of their minds, is there still that why am I doing this? Is it right? Should I be at home? Should I just push my husband to be more more further the move and things like that? Was there that sense?
I think everyone is a little different. Every couple I talk to, but there is an element like for that couple you're talking about. I think it's echoes my first time when we flipped, my husband and I, because we didn't think about it. We fell into it. It wasn't a conscious choice. That's when it's always tougher. And I think she felt that way a little bit, that she wished he would go get a job. Because she was also a snowboarder. So in a way, right? You're both creative, cool types, and she ended up having to take the corporate job. And then she was successful. Why didn't you take the corporate job and become the corporate person too?
But there was also the couple, the interracial couple. Yeah, the husband, the wife actually felt like, oh no, I'm most worried when he got laid off. Like, how does he feel? It was more of like his ego. How does he feel? How is the situation? Instead of like, who's going to make the money? That's not an issue. Like, how would he feel about the situation? Like, was it pretended? Is it an American? Was it, reflected in the society?
I do think a mix. So being laid off is just tough to tell people. So it's embarrassing. I think people feel, or we're still learning to say, don't be embarrassed. It's just it's just what happens. You'll get a job. So there's that element. And it's back to what you said earlier. It's like there are still social expectations. So being we're mindful of how they feel. I do think things are changing now. Things are changing. Part of it is how we own it, right? We talk about owning it and not being embarrassed about it. And I'll say, because I keep in touch with all these families, we're all in a better place of owning it, partly because of just the process of making the documentary, of wanting to make these families more visible. So I think that's important. I think it's also important, and I do that very consciously with my husband. So we don't think about it in that when you are working in a work environment, you do a good job, you have peers come, hey, that was a great interview, well done, right? You guys nobody goes to you, that was a good parenting moment, the way you just disciplined the child with the right amount of love and strictness. So they don't get that, and we as humans
sort of validation.
I always give my husband a lot of validation. At first it felt a little weird and cheesy because it's like we don't usually, but I just make it a habit, and now I just do it. It's like, thank you for making dinner. That was delicious. I have this attitude. I heard it actually from an older generation of women. She loved how her husband, even when she puts a burnt dish down, he always said, "Oh, that's amazing," and just eats it.
I think I read this.
So I have that same attitude. It's always delicious. It's always good, and I always say, even though it seems redundant, thank you.
It's appreciating the effort nonetheless, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's one thing to have like a healthy sort of established communication between your husband and wife. Like, I celebrate your success, you celebrate my success. But in terms of the bigger picture, the society, how do you think we can like change this mentality that it's okay for the female to be the breadwinner or the male, it's either or, it doesn't matter. How do you think we can do that, though?
I think a big part is I'll always get normalizing things, right? Like as in showing in media and entertainment those like stay-at-home dads, and not only showing them as bumbling idiots. I think there is too many jokes about dads, burning the food and dropping the baby. Those are stereotypes that we need to take away from public media. Oh, the AC started. So that's one. That's good. And I think another thing is we don't think about it that way, but in businesses, to encourage men to embrace their roles as dads and to give paternal leave, so that it becomes as expected for a man to potentially take off if they have a kid as a woman, to encourage. So we don't think about it, but actually if we encourage and create environments where men are expected to play a role at home, that would actually help with gender equality.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Actually, it's actually quite a norm in Scandinavian countries to have paternal leave.
Yes.
It's just not so much in the US and
The US is
more
starting
developing
now.
Asian
thank God,
countries.
and developing countries.
Yeah. But I think that would help. with the gender equality and the less of a prejudice against seeing a man with a baby, or less jokes
Yes.
about it too.
But I think even in movies now, like in just famous American movies, right? They're creating this whole men can take care of the children. Even like I think the most Daddy Daycare was like one of the first.
Yeah, I
Yeah, Daddy
remember that.
Daycare, right?
Daddy
So-
Daycare.
So yeah, it's changing.
Daddy daycare. That's and I would say just seeing, and we see it seems weird, but even advertisers play a big role.
Yeah.
Don't just make fun of dads with kids, embrace dads. And I think
Yes.
advertisers are starting to do that in
I think
America.
because those
That-
are mostly women are
Yeah.
the advertising.
Or even like, don't just advertise baby products as if only mom buys them, right? We
Yes.
don't realize these little things matter. Bathrooms, like to have a diaper station, only women's bathrooms have
Yes.
them. Why shouldn't men's bathroom have them? Those are little things we could do to normalize, I think, that whether it's that men and women can both be
Yeah.
the main parent.
You don't really realize it, but it's these little things that can change
Yeah.
everyone's perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's in terms of society's mindset. So, but what is important is of course the husband and wife,
The actual
right?
couple,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Couple, right? So it's like, from what you have seen from these families that you documented, and even yourself,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
what sort of like key takeaways can you share that to establish like a healthy communication, let it be transparent between the husband and wife. You know, if you're not happy with something, say it, you know, or
Yes.
something like that. So what do you think are
What's your advice,
Yeah.
what's your
basically?
advice?
A lot of it would be similar to any kind of couples advice. Is communications. It's a big thing. So that's number one. But I'll say little tips I have that I employ in my life is I give validation. To the person
Like you said
staying at
earlier, right?
home. That's going to be good for those of you who have a stay-at-home wife too.
Yes.
Like give them some validation.
Yes.
That's hard work. I would say money, the subconscious way we talk about my money or our money.
Yeah.
Women breadwinners might be a little bit more guilty of this, that it's not my money, it's our money.
Yeah.
And you have to encourage him to think it, because part of the issues is that a lot of men feel like it's her money. So suddenly they feel like they don't have a lot of options, they can buy things. No, it's like, I couldn't make that money if he wasn't taking care of the kids in the home. So I think talking through your financial arrangement, like very practically. So for us, what I earn goes into the family income, and we both have the same pocket money. So then it's
okay.
not like I have more spending money than him. We have equal spending. So that might not work for everyone, but that's an example of how you just practically have to think of money in a very equal way. So those are some of the two key things. People don't like to talk about money, right? And so I think that's important, so that he feels a stake in it, that this is now no longer, he's actually helping to earn the money.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
the role also, there's also a big role that let's say the man, regardless if he's working or not, making less or full time house husband. Sorry, full-time house husband, regardless if they are working or not, they do need to pick up where the gap is, right?
In the housework?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's the most important
So
thing.
yes.
Yes.
So that's the thing. I think housework, and actually, at least in the States, men are better at the obvious work. We now talk a lot about the invisible
Yes.
work.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Can we talk
like,
about that for a
yes,
second?
because it's like, just you saying, tell me what to do, is not helpful. Like, I'm the ones thinking we need to do this, we need to do that. So having conversations about it, I think, is important. And that's not just with who is the breadwinner. Dual working families. A lot of times, women do more of the homework, the housework, than the men. So you have to have conversations about family responsibilities, especially the invisible work. Because that's why I think
The invisible work is the worst, because somebody has to do it. If not, it's visible.
Yes.
But nobody actually wants to do the invisible work. Like,
Yes.
But that's where communication is, important and transparent. It's not easy to have these difficult conversations, but you gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Yes. And people don't think about it. It's not in the movie, but your personal relationship, intimacy is also important.
Yeah.
Right.
You need to make time to
Have
for
date
each
nights.
other, for date
Yeah.
night, to keep the fire alive.
Yes.
So, because after all, this is not just a business partnership,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So you got to do that, and it's important also for the women not to act like the boss at home and manage. So that's a big thing. I felt like part of our tension why he was resisting and not helping in the house is I was being like a boss.
You
right?
couldn't you
Yeah.
couldn't leave that boss side of you at work.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I was
home.
evaluating him like an employee.
Ah,
Oh,
like, okay,
you know, you should fold things this way. Why didn't you go
okay.
buy the fish from the fishmonger?
So you
this I
gotta
told you
separate
he's
that.
the better one. So you got to put it aside. Let it go.
Let's let it go. That's
yes.
the magic word.
Uh-huh.
Trust the process and let it go.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I wish we could talk on and on and on about this, but you know we've come to the end of our show. I mean, I would love to hear your final thoughts,
Yes.
Izzy, about this whole topic in society expectations and what any final
Yeah.
thoughts?
And
Any
also
final-
the fact that it's not just an American thing, but it's actually a global
yeah,
issue.
it's-
you
It
know?
is. I think it really comes down to, while it starts off about gender, it really is about respecting each other and letting families decide what works best for them. Whether it's the men or the women making the money, it doesn't matter. What matters is families are supported and that they are allowed to choose what's best, because whoever is better at making the money should do it, whether it's the man or the woman. Whoever is better at taking care of their home and kids should do that. And the more important thing is we should support wanting families to be happy and that children are going to be taken care of.
Yeah, that's true. Right. I mean, like us married people can
Yeah.
definitely learn from this.
An absolute relatable topic right now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I mean, we would love to keep this conversation going on with you guys. Let us know what you think about this. Maybe you can share your own experience if you are the female breadwinner of your family, and let us know what you think. So follow us on all social media platforms.
Sinar Daily,
Facebook.
MY.
Yeah, Sinar Daily, MY.
MY.
On Facebook, Twitter, and
TikTok.
TikTok. Yes, TikTok.
YouTube.
Yep, yep. So until then, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Okay.